Did you shut off that Nuggets-Lakers game thinking it was a blowout? Big mistake. The Spurs, big winners in the Wemby sweepstakes, and Ja Morant, big loser. And it's his own fault. It's all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yeah, conference finals time. This is a great time of year. Well, draft lottery's all set. We got all kinds of things happening in the NBA. 4 teams left, and 2 of them played tonight. I am one of your regular Wednesday hosts, just sporadically joining the podcast because my team is one of the 4 teams left. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter on John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast on Twitter at Nola Jake. I was going to say, are you actually a regular Wednesday co-host?
I know. I'm like just taking some. I'm doing just enough to put the time in. I'm only here so I don't get fined. Later on, we're going to get to the Ja Morant, who issued a statement in the middle of game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
When the game got good, right as the game got good and everyone was online. Like the timing is just chef's kiss.
I mean, just amazing. We'll play a little game of real or fake with that one. We'll talk about the draft lottery. Congratulations to the San Antonio Spurs. Once again, rewarded for a tank job with a generational talent. How do they keep doing that? Let's talk about first the Denver Nuggets holding on to beat the LA Lakers 132-126, a game that the Nuggets took control of early, had control of through 3 quarters, were up by 20 plus, and then the 4th quarter, the Lakers just started chipping away, doing what they do, defending, drawing a ton of fouls, and walking down the lead little bits at a time. This was a pretty good, I think the headline here is a pretty good defensive adjustment on Nikola Jokic, putting Rui Hachimura, who had a great game, on Jokic, letting Anthony Davis kind of patrol the baseline, cutting off anybody from getting to the rim. And that kind of changed the game defensively and allowed the Lakers to get back into it.
Yeah, you got to give Darvin Ham, the Lakers head coach, so much credit for that 4th quarter and that second half in particular, because for the first 2 quarters of this game, even the first 3, they had no answer for Nikola Jokic. They tried literally every type of defensive coverage on him. They were trapping him to start the game with Anthony Davis on him, and Jokic was just dicing him up with the passes, right? He had 14 assists here on the night. They tried playing drop coverage on him. He hit some threes. They tried doing everything, switching. None of it worked, and he finished with an incredible stat line, triple-double, as he does, right? 34 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists. Those are just ridiculous numbers. And then in the 4th quarter, they tried playing one-on-one with him with Rui Hachimura, and it worked. And he had the strength to kind of keep him away from the post. And as you said, Anthony Davis is his best when he's roaming, when he's almost playing free safety. Look at the impact he had for the Los Angeles Lakers against the Warriors in their previous series, just being a monster, looking like the best defensive player in the league during some of the postseason here, and finding a way to free him up, let the Lakers get back into this game, not ultimately win it. And I don't know if Rui can do this over the course of a whole series to limit Jokic like he did, but they're going to try this in game 2. It's just a shame for them that they couldn't win this. I am worried about one thing, though, for the Lakers in this, and that's the amount of minutes that LeBron James and Anthony Davis played. They had a couple of days off for this one. They were going to be a little bit well rested going into Denver. Anthony Davis played almost 42 minutes, and LeBron James basically played 40. Does that concern you at all?
Yes and no, because it is a lot. It's a lot for those guys. I'm less concerned about Anthony Davis, more concerned about, obviously, with the age, LeBron James. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, sure. But I think if Anthony Davis now is playing off of Jokic, that lightens the load for him a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm not that concerned with the playoffs. They're not traveling in between games. The minutes aren't as important as they are like in a regular season, where tonight they'd be flying out and you get up into a pressurized cabin and it messes with your body and you got to get to the next place and you're not sleeping. You're staying in these cities for multiple days. And Denver to LA is not the biggest travel, nightmare or anything like that. So I'm not quite as concerned about the minutes. I'm just more concerned about them. I don't want to say it was a missed opportunity because they came back. I think I'm just kind of I'm more like, let's see what Denver does in the next one. I'm concerned, I guess, for the Lakers that they had to make this adjustment already. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
now,
fair.
yeah, I think it, if maybe you save this one for game 2. Like, if your
Yeah,
goal is,
don't break it out in a loss, and now Denver can adjust to it, right? Because if you're looking at this from the Denver side of it, right, and you're like, oh no, they figured out how to defend Jokic. One, I'll trust Rui Hachimura to do that for a series or even the entirety of a game, right? It's Jokic; he's that good. The other thing is Aaron Gordon in that fourth quarter was just used by the Nuggets like horribly. He was just standing on the baseline, and that's also what allowed Anthony Davis to roam around, right? He didn't have to do that. If you put in Bruce Brown for him, how does that change things? And all of a sudden now, I look at this and I'm like, oh, Denver has this one still.
Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, on the surface, great adjustment. Great adjustment. You nearly came back and you stole that game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know.
No, I don't think you are, though. Like, the adjustments go both ways, don't they?
Right. So
the Lakers can make one and then Denver can make one.
You've got cards to play, right?
Yeah.
You've only got a few cards to play in the series. And the Lakers played a big one because I don't know what the next adjustment is on Jokic. And look, Jokic hit some crap out there. Like, he hit some shots that they're just like, okay, yeah, good luck with that. I think the Nuggets, just off the top of my head, I can think of 3 desperation shots that they hit that were like, okay, that's not something you can count on at all. But it was a 6-point game. It ended up being a 6-point game. I am gonna say that you go with Rui. Now you've given them a half of film, and you say, okay, well, we made a mistake, or just put it this way: maybe they didn't make a mistake, Denver. Maybe they didn't make a mistake by putting Bruce Brown, because that was exactly what I was going to suggest. Maybe you go small and put Bruce Brown in there, and you see if that'll work. Maybe you don't play that right away. Maybe you just you see how game 2, how that flows, and see if you can figure out another way. And then you save the Bruce Brown one in case you need it to take a game in LA. So I am going to question whether they played this card too soon. This was a loss. You nearly came back, but you were down 21 at one point. Maybe you should have chalked up this loss and said, okay, we are confident in our ability to adjust in game 2. Start your game 2 with Rui on Jokic and see if that's going to be the thing. Maybe Jokic starts slow and the Lakers can go out to big lead. You got to remember that Jokic had a monster first quarter with 8 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists that got them going in this one. So I don't know. Great adjustment, but I just wonder if they fired that shot too soon.
Yeah, and like, what's the counter to the counter? When Denver adjusts, what are the Lakers going to do? And I'm not sure they exactly have one. I think Denver's still the very clear favorite in this series after this. And anything that I saw in that game didn't really change it. There's no way they use Aaron Gordon as poorly as they did in the fourth quarter again.
Yeah, and I don't think so. And then if you're pulling Davis out to the perimeter,
which they didn't do at all. God, it was maddening to watch that. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, if you do that, then look, if you can keep Gordon out there, and say, hey, just let's use him out on the perimeter. And they could just be like, you know what, we're just going to switch somebody else onto him because he's not as big of a threat out there. Then you can still find a way to keep Anthony Davis somewhere along the baseline. In which case, then you go small. Maybe you find maybe you use more Jeff Green. Maybe Jeff Green's an answer in that situation. So I think the Lakers adjustments are a little bit more limited because of the personnel. So we'll see if that goes how that affects game 2. You could very easily sit there and say the Lakers have figured something out. They played the Nuggets. They beat them in the second half. They won
70 something, yeah.
Yeah, they score what 30. They won the third quarter by 4. They won the fourth quarter by 8. So they can sit there and say, hey, we won that second half. And because we came out to such a slow start and had such a bad first half, like if we keep just doing this, we'll just keep doing it and make the Nuggets adjust, and we feel good about taking game 2. They could easily sit there and say that and be fine. I think they've left a little too much room for the Nuggets to counter their counter. And that's what I'm looking at game 2. So I think it's a good place to end game 1 analysis. I think we got to look at the future champs, the champs in, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years from now, if Victor Wembanyama is everything he's cracked up to be. And that means maybe Greg Popovich will stick around to chalk up a couple more with his new found superstar. We'll talk about the draft lottery results next. First, we're going to talk about bird dogs. Super comfortable, super versatile. This is the wing, the versatile defender wing of your wardrobe, because you can pop on a pair of bird dogs. You can go to a meeting. You can jump in the pool. You can come out. They'll dry off for you. You can hop out and go to the next thing that you're doing. No worries. You get the freedom to wear one pair of shorts. They come with this liner kind of just built in, and it's a stretchy fabric. You know, legs look good in them. Hey, man, look, we're conscious about this stuff, us guys. We want them legs to look good. We're out there. We're going to, walking, running. We want to show it off, and bird dogs are a great way to do it. It's just a really good looking, versatile garment. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, and you can enter the promo code LockedOnNBA. They'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. So you get this awesome looking, super comfortable pair of shorts that look great, that feel great, that you can just wear all day and do everything in. And you get a Yeti style tumbler with it. It's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Enter that promo code LockedOnNBA to get your custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Obviously, everydayers here on the Locked On NBA podcast, to go to these teams. You got to go to the Locked On Lakers. You got to go to Locked On Nuggets for that in-depth analysis. Go to Locked On Spurs, because the San Antonio Spurs are the landing spot for Victor Wembanyama. They win the draft lottery. It's San Antonio, Charlotte, Portland with the third pick. Houston, Detroit, Detroit with the 5th overall pick. Jake, what do you think about Victor Wembanyama in San Antonio?
Congrats to our friend Jeff Garcia, host of Locked On Spurs here, and having so much fun with that one. I'm of two minds on this. I'll be honest. It seems fitting, right? One of the more international teams in the league. Popovich has had such success with these big men, David Robinson and then Tim Duncan. Now you get the next great one in Victor Wembanyama. And Victor Wembanyama, that hype is real. I've watched a lot of him recently, and I don't have many flaws in that dude's game coming into the league with how he looks. At the same point, the Spurs did such a blatant tank job this past season. I don't love that they jumped up a couple of spots to get it. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Would you say they deserved it for tanking? Probably not. Same for Portland, who was outright terrible. Detroit also won just 2 games after the All-Star break. I don't want to see that kind of stuff rewarded, but it makes so much sense.
Who wasn't tanking that you can sit there and feel good about? Orlando, like, okay, Indiana, yeah, okay. Look, the Spurs, my counter to that is they did it for like a year, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm.
And they held on. If anything, I've been criticizing the Spurs for not buying into the tank fully before. Like, we all know that this is how it happens. I just got done like bemoaning the process that, and celebrating the fact that the process is basically dead in Philadelphia. I hated the process. That kind of stuff though is out. Like, we know that that's what it takes to get these types of picks. We know to get Victor Wembanyama, like, there's no karmic kind of retribution. Oh wow, the Utah Jazz came out and tried real hard for half a season before they started tanking. They should get no. It's just, this is what it is. It is what it is. The Spurs spent a few years not even buying into tanking, and it took them.
No, they're pushing for the play-in tournament for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, and you had to end up trading DeJounte Murray and Derek White and saying, okay, now we got to take decent players away from Greg Popovich, so he has no choice anymore. I have no problem with this. It's just kind of funny. I was on a radio show before, and they said, they asked me who I thought, because obviously it's just a crapshoot anyway. But I was like, I can see San Antonio, just because the Tim Duncan stuff. They had that 1 year. They finally bought into a tank. They had that 1 year. David Robinson was like hurt, and they went into the tank. They got him. And then boom, just dominance until like a couple of years ago. And then, all right, fine, we'll do it again. Dip their toe into the tank water. Boom, here comes Wembanyama. And if he is as advertised, hell, if he's even 70% of as advertised, he's going to be a game changer for them. Obviously, they're going to have a very important summer building around him. But this is a guy who can probably change their fortunes incredibly right away, and you're going to start seeing the Spurs just being competitive and back to being competitive, and we'll see what this means for Greg Popovich, if he wants to hang around for 4 years or what.
His future now might be extended. We're looking at him probably retiring, it seemed like, in a year or two. Maybe. You don't know for sure when it comes to him. Now, why would he? That team's intriguing. You have Devin Vassell, who's there. You have Jeremy Sohan, who they just drafted. You took Malachi Branham in the first round as well as kind of your go-to scoring guard wing. And now you add Wembanyama like that. That's a very intriguing team that's kind of defense focused with Branham as your scorer. I don't know. That's kind of fun to me. Like, they just became one of the most interesting teams in the league just simply by virtue of getting this pick.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, and Keldon Johnson, they got some decent talent there.
They have a ton of future first round picks that they could use in deals and things like that from trading away all those other guys.
Yeah, so it's like I said, the Spurs have an interesting summer ahead of them. But yeah, they instantly become an interesting team, and they're going to be at or near the top of everybody's league pass rankings when they do those coming up in, August and September or whenever they start doing those, because everybody's going to want to see what Wembanyama is really, really about. For me personally, I watched some, but I didn't watch a ton because, first of all, Celtics aren't even close.
Yeah, you don't need to look at this stuff here.
Not even going to be an issue.
Look at this guy covering a great team and things like that.
Hey man, look, let me tell you something. In about 6 years, things are going to change. Maybe sooner. I'm going to be in this world, so I'm savoring it while it exists. But yeah, they're going to be instantly interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does against NBA competition. I want to see what he looks like against the NBA, and what's going to happen next year when he gets there. everybody, instead of the top teams going to San Antonio and being like, whatever, they're going to go to San Antonio. They're going to be like, oh, we're going to teach this Wemby kid a lesson. We're gonna put him in his place, rookie, and it's going to be a real like challenging atmosphere. And if he can thrive in that, then they got something super special. Everybody believes right now the Spurs have something super special, but to see, we want to see them prove it. Now, let's quickly, before we wrap it up, Charlotte, I don't know, like Scoot Henderson. Again, I'm not paying a ton of attention to the draft, so I know that there's some debate over who's going to be 2 and who's going to be 3. It seems like Scoot Henderson, because he's a point guard, is going to drop to Portland, and Brandon Miller is going to go to Charlotte. That gives them a really dynamic wing, LaMelo Ball, or
Well, no, I think that's going to happen. It's Portland where things get interesting, right? And I was talking to Mike Richmond, host of Locked On Blazers, earlier. He said if they don't trade that pick, you got to wonder if Damian Lillard is going to be on the move. If they draft someone young with that pick, Lillard doesn't want that, and it's likely going to be the end of the era. I think they're going to be shopping the 3rd pick hard. Like, this was almost ideal for them outside of getting the number 1 overall pick, which I think certainly maybe means Damian Lillard is gone. They don't want this. They want to keep Lillard. They're going to trade that pick. They're going to retain him now, bring in some other talent, not be super good, but they get Damian Lillard longer.
All right, good point there about Portland. That's something to watch moving forward. If we are rewarding tanking, how about rewarding the Dallas Mavericks for their just blatant tank job, keeping their pick at 10? They get fined for it, and they say it's worth it. They got to keep their pick.
It worked out for them. That's the team that had like no karma jumping into the top 4 whatsoever. But hey, those fines were worth it now.
So, all right. So that's the draft lottery. We'll see how, a lot of these things pan out. Poor Detroit, just poor Detroit. But hey, things might work out for them in the long run. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. All right. Let's talk about Ja Morant up next, because this was just, I don't know, PR disaster. I can't imagine anybody's had a worse few months in the NBA than Ja Morant has. We'll talk about that in just a second. First, I want to thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. How about listening to our podcast? We talk about the team podcast, the Locked On Celtics podcast. If you're curious about how Celtics are going to cross over with the Locked On Heat. So those guys are, it's going to be a preview of the upcoming game 1 in the upcoming series, the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, Jake's got the Pelicans draft coverage there with the 14th overall pick. So check that out. Check out Locked On NBA Big Board while we're at it. This was going to be a preview of Celtics and Heat meeting again in the conference finals. But then Ja Morant issued a statement in the middle of game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So in his statement, now let's recap for people who haven't really been paying attention. Another streaming video, Ja Morant seen briefly with a gun in his hand. The commissioner at the draft lottery was asked about it, and he said, I'm really disappointed, and we're basically assuming the worst when it comes to this stuff. So I guess that means that Ja felt compelled to issue a statement, which he read. Quote, "I know I've disappointed a lot of people who have supported me. This is a journey, and I recognize there's more work to do. My words may not mean much right now, but I take full accountability for my actions. I'm committed to continuing to work on myself." So, Jake, we play a game of real or fake here every Wednesday. Real or fake? Ja Morant is sincere in his statement.
I don't know for sure, but I feel like it's fake right now, just given everything we've seen. If he was sincere, this wouldn't have happened in the first place. If he was sincere, it wouldn't have taken the commissioner forcing his hand and making him put out a statement at literally the worst possible time.
What are you doing? What is this?
This was like a night that everyone was online and going to see this. You know, if you want to just kind of dump that off, you don't do it right in the fourth quarter when the marquee game that everyone wants to watch just got to 8 points and everyone was online and paying attention. The same night of the most anticipated draft lottery we've had since Zion Williamson. Just the timing of this is questionable. And then you get into the actual statement itself, and it's meaningless. Just because you say I take full accountability for my actions, so what? Accountability is actions. Just saying I take accountability does not actually mean you're accountable or that accountability is going on during all of this. And then the line about the journey, what is the journey here? Does this need to even be a journey, which is his, I don't want to call it obsession with guns, but something along those lines with guns. That statement, and there's some stuff floating out, and I don't know if it's fake or not, looks like it was written by ChatGPT because people put in, apologize for something you've been caught before for, and it comes out with like a similar thing. What about this sounds sincere or like he's learned a lesson from any of this?
You know, the fact that he did it again is the most damning part of this. Right. The most accurate thing that he said, and by the way, my answer is fake. He's not sincere. I don't think he's taking this seriously. My words may not mean much right now. That is actually a fact. That is true. That part is real. Everything else is fake to me because you just got busted doing this. You just cost your team. Like, you are sitting there. You should be sitting there watching Nuggets Lakers, just seething that it isn't Nuggets Grizzlies like it should be. And yet you're out there waving guns around live on Instagram again. You told the commissioner to his face, yeah, I'm going to be better. And you lied because you went right back to it. And now the commissioner's on TV going, honestly, I was shocked. I'm assuming the worst. That you are screwed, Ja Morant. You're screwed. He's going to get suspended for a significant amount of time. The Grizzlies are screwed again because they're going to be without Ja, and they're in upheaval now. He keeps saying these things, but he's being incredibly selfish. He's not thinking about himself. He's not thinking about his family. He's not thinking about his team. He's not thinking about anybody besides whoever he's waving a gun around with. That's all he wants to do. And it's just shocking to see such a incredibly dumb lack of judgment on his part. You got a daughter. You got a family to take care of. You are Ja freaking Morant. You got a Nike deal. Is that going to go away? You have generational wealth. What are you doing? It drives me nuts to see a guy with this much talent, with an entire city behind him, one of the most popular players in the world, and he's doing this.
Look, he already faced pretty bad consequences from this. You could argue the suspension he had in the middle of the season is what cost him an All-NBA spot, and thus the Rose Rule escalators in his contract. It cost him about $40 million. Why is this a thing right now? Why are you, and I don't want to sound like, you know, the 37-year-old white dude clutching his pearls or anything like that, right? But if you're riding around with people and you know they're on Instagram Live, like what are we doing here? Why are you letting your friends film you if this is kind of how you want to be, right? And this is one of those ones where you've got to wonder if he needs to really kind of take a look at the people around him and get rid of some of those people. And that's not easy to do, and that's not going to be a fun type of introspection to have. But man, even the PR staff, if this is when you think this is the time to put that statement out there right now, let alone one that's just filled with empty calories like it was, it's just nothing good. Like, it just shows a complete lack of awareness, right? Like, I don't know how to even talk about this in a positive manner. And clearly he's trying to figure something out, who he is, whatever it might be. I don't know. I'm not him. I don't know what he's going through. But look, you don't want to be this. You don't want to be doing this. And I'm not saying he's like a bad role model. You can build this into something bigger, right? With the shootings around the country and kind of promoting gun culture and things like that. Is that who you truly want to be? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. We shouldn't get into all of that. But it's like, man, just from you and your stuff, stop hurting yourself.
Look, man, I'll say it. Why are you're perpetuating a stereotype? You're perpetuating a stereotype that a lot of people have worked really, really hard to fight.
Yeah.
And you're playing into the worst assumptions of the worst people around the world. There's a whole lot of pointing and saying, see, from people who have bad opinions about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I think that about like Ja Morant I think he's just being immature and irresponsible. But I think what he has to understand is you have a responsibility. You aren't just playing basketball. By accepting an NBA salary and by accepting NBA stardom, you now bear responsibility for representing yourself, your family, your team, your city, and in these political times, you represent the what people are fighting for is probably the best way for me to say it. You're representing what the whole league in the bubble, post George Floyd, post all that. You're representing that fight. You're taking that on. You have to understand that you are part of that fight. And to do this derails a lot of the work that's been done. And I don't know who the guys are that he's with. He might think they're his friends, but I'll tell you one thing. I wouldn't think too highly of any friends that put me in a situation knowing that I just got in trouble for something.
I mean, his friend tried to throw the camera down or the phone down the second Ja took out the gun. If you watch the end of that video, right, I've seen people being like, Ja was on Instagram Live doing this. No, his friend was filming him, and this friend tried to like hide it, but at that point it was too late. And as I said, like, why are they filming you in the first place? Like, why are you doing all this?
No, man, put it down. Like, this is just...
Tell them don't film if you have a gun in the car.
People around him can have to either be better or Ja Morant has to make tough decisions and say, you know what? Can't hang out with you guys anymore if we're going to be, if this is going to be how it is. And that's, I understand that some people might see this and say, that it might not be my place in particular to say things like that. But I just feel like, this is a guy that has so much potential to do so much positive, just again, for his daughter, for his family, not just go out and play basketball and make the Memphis Grizzlies the 2 seed and go out there and be awesome. So we can all like clap and be in awe of the things that you do. He has been beloved, absolutely one of the most popular players in the world. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him live up to that thing that he's built up for himself. This is a great opportunity to make a positive impact on the world. Don't go down this road. Just don't go down this road because you're erasing a lot of the hard work that you've put in. I don't think he understands how much of the hard work that he's put into it that he has erased with 2 Instagram live videos. It's ridiculous.
And it's going to hang over the team till we get a decision from the commissioner. And it sounds like this is going to be a
It's
significant
gonna be
enough
significant.
suspension, right? Now it's
gonna
going to kind
cost
of be
them a lot
hanging
of
over the Memphis Grizzlies like the
I
entire
mean,
offseason and the beginning of the year.
we're going along with this segment, but the last thing I want to say, like, this is going to cost him the last incident cost him 8 games, and now you've pissed off the commissioner, right? So that's it's not going to be 10 games, it's not going to be 15. This is going to be when Woj says significant. I mean, this could be like 20 games, could be half the season, could be, but it's not going to be like, oh, the first one was 8, the second one was 10 or 12. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be costly. Going to be costly for him financially, costly for him in a lot of ways, and costly for his team. So, Ja, what are you doing, man? All right, let's wrap it up. Let's say thank you to everybody for listening and for watching. As not usual lately, but I'm just going to say, as usual on Wednesdays, I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter at Nola Jake.
Let's pass it off to Pat the designer, Nick Angstead tomorrow. They'll be talking about Celtics and Heat and a whole lot more in the NBA. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, however you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube and share it. Tell your friends and family and everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.